Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice and it's by user Throwaway General Jelly. I've ruined my marriage because of a stupid song. Some backstory. My wife and I, both late 30s, are a couple since high school, married for 15 years and have a son, 5. She had always bad anxiety and we decided she can stay at home pursuing her hobbies and doesn't need to work if that makes her feel better. Since rent, household helpers and bills are expensive, I need to make some sacrifices and take a job as a cross-country truck driver. The pay is okay, but I'm home just 2 or 3 days per month. All of this becomes relevant later. Earlier this day, I managed to take vacation days for the week between Christmas and New Year's and wanted to surprise my family. When I came home, my wife acted annoyed, like I'm some uninvited guest, and I've brushed it off because it may just be holiday stress. Everything seemed off, and then I hear my son talking to himself, "Last night I saw mommy kissing Santa." I took it as a subtle hint for cheating, since I'm treated more like a roommate instead of a husband, if you know what I mean. Like an hour ago, we went out to eat with our parents. Kiddo stayed home with the nanny. We have a family tradition about saying what we're thankful for, and then came my turn. I couldn't hold back and I said, "I'm thankful for my son telling me you've cheated." And then the screaming came. Apparently, it's my fault she didn't work even a day in her whole life, doesn't have a driver's license, can't cook, doesn't know how to hold a broom, or have any useful life skills. Nothing about the cheating allegation though. I'm also at fault for not making more money because her friends always brag about purses worth thousands, which we can't afford, and for making her pregnant, since now no other richer guy would want her. I got sick of her rant and told her it's not my fault she doesn't have any life skills or work experiences. She got always the chance to take cooking and driving classes, but instead chose to watch The Office all day long because of her "I won't even try if there's a chance to fail" mentality. Yeah, watching that and browsing Imgur is all she does. I'm paying for a full-time nanny. A maid comes twice per week to clean up, and all kitchenware is just for decoration since we always eat takeouts. Anyway, still nothing about the cheating. After making that scene, she got up and left with her parents. Moments before leaving, her mom stopped and said, "I saw mommy kissing Santa is a song. I got him a CD with Christmas classics." That's when I started to feel kinda stupid, but I still wasn't sure about the cheating since nothing was mentioned. Now at home, she's threatening me with divorce and how I won't see my son ever again. Can this be saved? Apologies didn't help. I'm also worried what will happen to my wife if she really goes through with divorce. Imagine an almost 40-year-old woman with the skill set of a 13-year-old. Oh man, OP, this is a major F-up. I mean, honestly, I didn't know that "I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa" was a song, but apparently it's a classic. But regardless of that, you had no proof, just your son mumbling some words, and you took that as everything it meant for you to call her out for cheating in front of her parents and your parents. That's your F-up, and yeah, you should own it. Now, regarding your wife and her reaction, you've noted twice that she said nothing about the cheating. It was all about how she was unhappy with whatever her situation is, and it's all your fault. Still nothing about the one accusation that you did make. And I gotta say, I find that very, very odd because if anybody would accuse me of cheating, that's what I would focus on, proving that it hasn't happened or, what are you talking about? Not ranting about everything in my life sucks because of you. Now, can this be saved? I honestly don't know, and it doesn't seem like it if she blew off the top like this. And what would happen to your wife if she goes through with divorce with having no skills? I would imagine you would end up paying a lot in spousal support, child support, and alimony. But that's just my ignorance talking because I really don't know much about the system over there. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Anon723 says, "You were definitely in the wrong for calling her out in front of everyone with zero proof except your son speaking the words to a well-known Christmas song. However, your wife sounds like such a spoiled, entitled wannabe princess. She's useless and brings nothing but grief to your life. The fact she's threatening to keep your son from you is also disgusting. I hope she was just saying that in anger and didn't really mean it, because if she did, you better go get yourself a shark divorce lawyer as soon as possible. No matter what happens, you needed to quit being such a doormat, not only for your own sake, but also for your child. No way should you only be spending a couple of days with your child a month just because you can't say no to your wife. Aussie Mama 89 says, "Whoa, dude, your wife sucks. You have a full-time nanny, cleaner, and eat takeout? What the F does she do all day? I'm sorry, but if she really loved you, she would forgo most of these things to save you money. That's actually ridiculous. You work your ass off for what?" Black Sabbath Gal says, "Your wife sounds super spoiled. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to deal with that. Why pay for a nanny and a maid when your wife is home all day? It's her own damn fault for not being able to function like a proper adult, not yours. And getting mad that you got her pregnant, so now no one richer will want her?" So she's basically saying she doesn't want her own child because now no one better will want her. Wow. You need to leave that bitch like yesterday. I am honestly not even sure why you'd want to fix things. I wouldn't worry about her not being able to do things on her own. That's her own fault. That being said, I definitely think you were in the wrong for dropping that bomb in front of her family. That's something that should have been handled at home or in some private setting. Also, have you never heard of the song literally titled "I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus"? Fart Mistress says, "Dude, you need to get a local truck driving job. I don't see how anyone can have a good relationship dynamic with those crappy OTR schedules. But other than that, I know quite a few of my friends' wives that will just never work. They don't complain about not having experience crap, but they just want to raise their kids and watch daytime TV for life. You've got to decide if you can live with that, because I don't think it's something you can change." And Clavier Christ says, "You are at least half the reason you ended up with a wife like this by having no expectations for her. You pay for a nanny, a housekeeper, while she doesn't work. You're an enabler. She needs to get off her ass and start contributing. You need to stop paying for nannies, housekeeper, and anything else that prevents her from being a normal, productive adult. And you need to be home so that you can be a contributing parent and husband, not just a paycheck. I don't feel sorry for you. Some men take OTR jobs to avoid everyday responsibilities at home. It seems all you think you need to do as a husband and father is pay the bills." The community had a lot of different opinions regarding everything, but yeah, the consensus is that OP shouldn't have gone and just accused his wife of cheating without any evidence, and the wife needs some skills. Now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. The original post didn't get much attention, but I've still felt the need to post that update. Since she deflected all cheating allegations, I did something that I'm not proud of. I waited until she fell asleep and looked at her phone. I wasn't prepared for what I'll find there. She's basically in a full-blown 2-year relationship with some other guy. No, it's not Santa, lol. Got him even saved as Bae with a heart, while I'm just M. There was also a Facebook account with her middle and maiden name I've never heard of. Listed that guy as in relationship with her, and both of her parents are added. I guess it means they knew. There's also absolutely no mention of our son or me. Like, we don't even exist. I've already talked to an ex-classmate who happens to be a real estate attorney, and he gave me some contacts. Let's hope for the best. Funny how a random song made me find out something I'd never expect. Thanks for reading, and also to the repliers of my previous post. Wow, I guess it's one of those mistakes that just uncovers the truth, because you really had no grounds to accuse her of cheating, but I guess in a weird way you quote-unquote struck gold anyway. I'm sorry, OP. I hope whatever divorce proceeding you go through, it is swift and you don't lose your son. In the meantime, here's wishing you the best, and thanks for sharing. Now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I Overreacting, and it's by user LA550. Am I overreacting for being disappointed with how my honeymoon is going so far? I, 30s female, got married to my husband, 40s male, a couple of days ago, and now I'm on my honeymoon, but I'm so disappointed and upset about how it's going so far. First, my new husband insisted on getting the honeymoon booked back in December because he was worried that all the nice places would be gone. He was doing it on Christmas Eve when I was already busy and a bit stressed, and I don't really understand why it couldn't wait a few days. I know he just really wanted to get a nice place for us, but because I was busy, I didn't have much of a chance to have any input. I asked for two things: that it was secluded and had a nice view. We got married in a bit of a destination wedding 6 hours from where we live because of the beautiful scenery. We arrived yesterday and he had booked a small cabin in someone's garden with no view at all. We just look onto the house. The inside is beautiful and they are the pictures he'd shown me, but I had no idea it was in someone's garden. He did know, however, and it's just so far from being secluded. All the windows face the house, so the blinds have been constantly drawn because the windows are floor to ceiling and everyone in the house can see us. There is a little garden that looks into the living room of the house, so we can't even sit outside on our lawn. I am uncomfortable staying in places where the owner is so visible already because I feel a bit more watched and constricted, but especially when we are supposed to be on honeymoon. I walked into the place and I was so disappointed that I cried. I hate crying and felt so bad, and he was really apologetic. I tried to get over it and move on and make the best of it. Today, to make up for the accommodation disaster, we decided to splurge on going to a spa with amazing views. We were both very excited about it, but when we got there, he spent most of his time on his own in the super hot saunas, which I can't handle very well. I went into one with him and after 10 minutes got out, but he stayed in for quite a while afterwards. He would then join me for a few minutes in the pool or hot tub before disappearing into even hotter saunas. I asked him to come into a cooler one so we could sit on a cute swing together. It was a 45 degrees Celsius room, but he wanted to go into the 90 degrees Celsius one, which is just way too hot for me. So I waited in the cooler one. Then got bored and went for a swim, and he still hadn't come out. When he did eventually come out, he immediately went outside to jump into a colder pool. When he then came to find me, we did a face mask, and then I said I wanted to spend some time with him, and he said he wanted to go back into the 90 degrees Celsius sauna. To spend some time with him, I went into it, but I just couldn't stand it and had to get out, and he said he'd join me in a minute. 20 minutes later, he came out to spend time with me, but we only had 15 minutes left by this point of our experience. I just spent most of our 3 hours on my own, watching couples being all cute together, and I was so sad. I cried in the car again, and I seriously never cry. He was apologetic and admitted he was being too independent and that he focused on his own needs and how he wanted to relax rather than thinking of it as a couple's activity on their honeymoon. He wants to make it up to me tomorrow, but I'm just so over it already. I just feel a bit stupid. I have been on a lot of holidays and even a different honeymoon, and I've never cried on any of them, even when things have gone disastrously wrong. But I've cried both days of our 3 days mini-moon. I just feel like he has been really thoughtless and not taken what I want or ask for into consideration. So what do you think? Am I overreacting? If I am, I'll apologize in the morning and try and make the last day into something nice. Well, OP, personally, no, I don't think you're overreacting. I mean, it is a honeymoon. It's supposed to be for the couple. Not everyone goes their own way and will meet at the airport. That's not a honeymoon. And you had been specific about what you wanted for the honeymoon in terms of a place, and that even came up short. Now, maybe, to give him the benefit of the doubt, this is a setting expectations problem. It's the fact that you guys haven't talked about what you both want out of this experience. I'm not saying either of you is wrong in this situation. I'm saying it could be just a miscommunication. I mean, he said it at the end already. He said that he was being too independent and that he wants to make it up to you. Maybe that's his way of acknowledging that he effed up one big day in the honeymoon. So maybe before you start the next day, sit down with him and talk about expectations. What is it that you both want to get and agree on something and then have that third day? And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Careful Avocado 3917 says, information, is he usually thoughtless? I can't imagine leaving my partner in a spa while on our honeymoon, or booking somewhere in someone's garden knowing that the main thing that they asked for was seclusion. Doesn't he also want seclusion, or was he expecting intimacy in a setting where you clearly feel uncomfortable? And Dopey responds, no, he isn't normally thoughtless. He definitely shows his love in a different way than I do, but we are good at navigating that normally. He shows his love in a very practical way by looking after me. So he will do things like cook most of the dinners and then pack me a lunch for work most days as well. We'll always make sure we have ibuprofen because I get bad cramps and always forget to buy more until I have my next period. We'll tidy the kitchen before going to bed, etc. Is super supportive and excited for me when I decide to try a new hobby, even if it's an expensive one. I am much more affectionate and like spending time with him. I am pretty good at communicating my needs though, and he normally listens and responds to them, so I don't really know what happened today at all. I've been on holidays with him before and I've not felt like this on any of them. Maybe it was just wedding stress and him needing to decompress in his own way. He is an introvert, but it just really sucked for me. Medium Tension 8053 says, not overreacting. Does he know he's on a honeymoon? I'd get wanting to do things you want, but choosing to spend more than half the spa day alone on your honeymoon is wild. Is him not wanting to spend time with you a pattern? And Moon Knight Walk says, is it about the honeymoon, or is it that you hoped that he would somehow change how he usually is towards you because you are married now, and this is actually just highlighting how you feel generally in your relationship? Id est, does he always help in ways that are convenient for him rather than waiting for you to discuss it together? Or not do what you ask for or listen to it or compromise with your needs or communicates in a way that's dismissive? See what happens tomorrow. There's no point not making the best of things, trying to have a nice time together and maybe save a bigger conversation for a time that's less emotionally intense. If it's completely out of character and unexpected, I would personally want to just wipe the slate clean. Chalk it up to stress. This is why we eloped, no planning whatsoever, and make a plan for a nice first year anniversary instead, not overreacting. The community agrees OP is not overreacting, and OP gave us some information about the relationship that puts some things into frame. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Thank you everyone who weighed in, the supportive ones and the critical ones. I enjoyed reading your comments, even if you call me bratty. It's not an arranged marriage, we are both English, and we just happened to work in the Middle East for a few years in his 30s and loved the heat. We had a good conversation late last night. We definitely went to the spa with different intentions. He went with the relaxation mentality after the wedding, introvert recharge definitely needed, whereas I went with the couple experience idea in my head. I apologized for not making my wants and needs clearer, and he apologized for not listening properly in the spa when I asked for some time together at the end. He is definitely an acts of service guy and can be very independent, which I'm fine with because he is normally responsive when I ask him for a bit of time. He just missed the cue yesterday. By the time I'd woken up, he'd been searching for options of stuff for us to do together, and he offered to pay for another spa experience himself, which I thanked him for, but refused because I don't want him spending a bunch of money on me, and really, I just want the time together. We don't need to be somewhere fancy for it. So we ended up having breakfast in bed, then walking to the place that he proposed last year to me, which is why we chose to get married here. It was pouring with rain, but fun anyway. We then got some delicious food for lunch. So nothing dramatic. We aren't breaking up, and we will definitely be booking all accommodation together from now on. Thank you all. Alright OP, good for you. Another win for communication. That's definitely the way to go. So here's wishing you the best OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge, and it's by user BBRapskyle1975. I saved 5 years of discarded dog bones and returned them to my neighbor. Occasionally, while cutting grass, I would find small chunks of bone scattered about my backyard, maybe once every other month. the kind someone would give to their dog to gnaw on. My yard is fenced in, and of all my neighbors, only one has a big enough dog for that kind of thing. So I had my suspicions about who was responsible, but I never knew for sure. It was a mild inconvenience, but I always just picked them up and tossed them aside this little storage container. Over the years, I accrued quite a collection of them. One day, I came home from work in the early afternoon, and as I was pulling into my driveway, I saw something that lobbed over the shared fence with my neighbor, who I always suspected. Older guy, I think he was cutting grass. I'm guessing he didn't want to run over it with his mower, and instead of acting like a human being and disposing of it properly, he throws it in my backyard because he's a piece of crap. Now, I pride myself on being a reasonable person, but I can also be a petty, vindictive little a-hole under the right circumstances. I could call him out on it and he might stop, or he might do it more just to be a prick. So I decided to just return his bones, and if he wanted to have a conversation about it afterwards, we could absolutely do that. Fast forward to sundown. I go outside and proceed to throw probably 100 bone chunks over the fence over the course of a half hour. There was something deeply satisfying about it, cathartic even. A week or so later, we see each other when we're both leaving our homes. I'd only laid eyes on the guy 2 or 3 times in the 5 years I've lived there, night shift hours. I would characterize his facial expression as severely disgruntled. I couldn't stop smiling. He didn't say a word about it. How could he? He'd have to acknowledge what he'd been doing for years. Haven't seen a bone since. Well, OP, I wouldn't call it a petty revenge. I would call it just desserts. He can't say a word about it. And now you have a clean yard. Thanks so much for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.